Today on the show, Stormy, Avenatti, Trump, oh my, plus prison inmates sextorting service members.
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So, there's an awful lot to unpack today with regard to Stormy Daniels and Michael Avenatti. Stormy Daniels, the adult entertainer, the mattress actress, if you will, who allegedly had an affair with our president, Donald J. Trump, and her lawyer, Michael Avenatti, who, besides representing Stormy Daniels in her dealings with the president, also sort of saw himself as the next president, possibly, as the anti-Trump, as the great white hope for the Democratic Party when it came to the election in 2020. He was sort of selling himself on this idea that you needed someone rough and tough who took no guff, similar to Donald Trump, to beat Donald Trump. And you know what? It seemed like for a while that idea was picking up a little bit of steam. Interestingly enough, I think a lot of the momentum to Michael Avenatti's run at the Democratic nomination for president came from pundits on the right who said, watch this guy. This guy is going to be the guy. He's setting himself up to take Donald Trump on. And Democrats went, really? This guy? Oh, yeah, I guess I could see it. But it was interesting because I kind of feel as though any momentum his potential campaign had was supported by the right, maybe because they were setting up someone who they thought was ridiculous, guaranteed to lose, or maybe just because they thought, oh, this guy could be the business. And you know what? There were more and more people that believed that perhaps he could be the business, perhaps he could be president, perhaps he could beat Donald Trump in 2020. That sort of got derailed when he was accused of domestic abuse. And, well, this is going to put him back significantly as well. Stormy Daniels said Michael Avenatti sued Trump for defamation against her wishes. I know, like I said, there's a lot to unpack, and we'll get into it in just a little bit. But I wanted to start the show by saying, geez, am I glad that I never online dated? I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know how I've managed to circumvent this whole thing. I don't know how I've never been on Tinder and Bumble and all these different sort of dating sites and apps that appear to be just part of the culture in the year 2018 and for the past couple of years. But I don't know. Whenever I've been in a relationship, I've managed to do things sort of like the old school way, eyes meet across a crowded room without all the hassle of having to download an app, getting between me and the object of my affections. So that's been fortunate for me, and I feel extra fortunate when I found out today. And look, if you are on a dating app, that's where you like the vast majority of the population. But I found out today how people's dating apps were turned into a sextortion ring. I guess you could call that sextortion. Is that a word? It is now a sextortion ring by prison inmates. It's absolutely freaking insane. And like I said, it makes me unbelievably grateful that I've never had to rely on dating apps and haven't had to open myself up to this sort of scam. It's absolutely nuts. Did you see this? A group of prison inmates, bear in mind, this is a crime they managed to commit from prison. A group of South Carolina prison inmates allegedly used smartphones to pose as underage girls in order to trick American service members into paying them thousands upon thousands of dollars in extortion money. Yeah. See, there's an investigation going on right now by the Naval Criminal Investigative Service. And this is basically the scam, the scheme, the plot. This past Wednesday just gone by, agents from military criminal investigative organizations served arrest warrants and summonses to those accused of participating in this sextortion ring. Now, what is a sextortion ring, I hear you ask? Well, first and foremost, you should know that the people affected by this didn't think they were talking to an underage girl and continue talking to them. This was not an Anthony Weiner style sort of situation. The scam was this. It was, well, first and foremost, the investigation into this scheme was titled Operation Surprise Party. I just thought that was kind of interesting, and I would share it with you. But Here's what went down. NCIS estimated that 442 service members from the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps were scammed out of close to $600,000. South Carolina inmates, along with outside accomplices, victimized hundreds of people. This is according to Daniel Andrews, who is Director of Computer Crime Investigations for the U.S. Army Criminal Investigations Command, saying with nothing more than smartphones and a few keystrokes, these inmates scam people out of hundreds of thousands. Basically, the inmates were assisted by people on the outside in targeting military service members on social media and dating websites. The inmates would pretend to be women engaging in, romantic online chit-chat and relationships with these men. And they'd start sexting with them, exchanging pictures with them. And then they would flip the script and pose as a police officer or an older family member or a parole officer, claiming that the person they'd exchanged pictures with was underage, was a minor. And then these inmates would extort money from the military members who believed that they now were in possession of child pornography. So, do you see what happened? Prison inmates somehow managed to get phones. They struck up online relationships by posing as females with military service members. They would have these little back and forths. They would exchange photos, naked photos. They would start sexting with them. And then they would pretend to be an older family member and say, hey, guess what? That was my daughter. That was my parolee. That was someone who's in child protective services that you've been sexting with. You're now in possession of child pornography. And if you don't want me to tell the world, well, you're going to have to start paying up soon. Like I said, blows my mind. Never would have imagined anything like this would have been possible. Never even would have thought of this. Don't have a devious criminal mind, I suppose. But like I said, it makes me feel fortunate that I've never had to resort to Bumble or Tinder to find a romantic companion. Just comb my hair, go out, and hope for the best. Anyways, this despicable targeting of our brave service members will never be tolerated, according to Naval Criminal Investigative Services Director Andrew Traver. We will not allow criminal networks to degrade the readiness of our military force. Wow. Insane stuff. So, whether you're a service member or not, and you're looking for love and romance online, careful out there.
Real radio. 104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So, like I said, there's an awful lot going on with regard to Stormy Daniels and Michael Avenatti at the moment. I mean, the headline that there's a good chance you saw today is basically, Stormy Daniels says Michael Avenatti sued Trump against her wishes. Didn't want him to sue Trump. He did it anyway. Jerk. Now, that's a headline. That's a cliffhanger. So let's Tarantino this and go back to the beginning and remind ourselves of the events of the last several months with regard to all this. Michael Avenatti sued Donald Trump for defaming Stormy Daniels against her wishes. This is what Stormy Daniels said in her statement today. Interestingly enough, Avenatti also started a new fundraising site to raise money for her legal defense fund without telling her. This is the other thing Stormy Daniels said. He's acting on my behalf in ways I did not ask him to act. And at this point, she's not sure whether or not she's going to be keeping Avenatti as her lawyer. Here's her full statement. For months, I've asked Michael Avenatti to give me accounting information about the fund my supporters so generously donated to for my safety and legal defense. He has repeatedly ignored those requests. Days ago, I demanded again repeatedly that he tell me how the money was being spent and how much was left. Instead of answering me without my permission or even my knowledge, Michael launched another crowdfunding campaign to raise money on my behalf. I learned about it on Twitter. I haven't decided yet what to do about legal representation moving forward. Michael has been a great advocate in many ways. I'm tremendously grateful to him for aggressively representing me in my fight to regain my voice. But in other ways, Michael has not treated me with the respect and deference an attorney should show to a client. He has spoken on my behalf without my approval. He filed a defamation case against Donald Trump against my wishes. You only get to that part like halfway through her statement. Like that's the big part of the story. I would have led with that, but okay, potato. Anyways, he filed a defamation case against Donald Trump against my wishes. He repeatedly refused to tell me how my legal defense fund was being spent. Now, he has launched a new crowdfunding campaign using my face and name without my permission and attributing words to me that I never wrote or said. I'm deeply grateful to my supporters, and they deserve to know that their money is being spent responsibly. I don't want to hurt Michael, but it's time to set the record straight. The truth has always been my greatest ally. And you know what? It's kind of interesting. What a lot of people don't realize is that porn and porn performers and everybody trying to make a living off of porn, well, the game has changed for these folks in much the same way that it has for musicians. Only because, well, if you want to hear music now, what do? Do you save up your babysitting money pennies? Catch a ride with your parents? To the record store? Dump your cash on the table as you pay for a compact disc or perhaps a tape? Take it home and listen to it, knowing that your $11.99 is now on its way to the artist that recorded this album you're about to listen to? No, we've talked about this a lot. Things are not like the days of youth. Things are not like the days of your youth. Basically, music is free. You can listen to music literally anywhere on any device. Anytime you want to hear a song, you can hear it. You don't have to buy anything. It's free. And that has massively disrupted the music business model. They tried to fight it. They tried to fight against Napster. They tried to outlaw and ban the MP3 in the early 2000s when this became a thing. And, well, it all went horribly wrong. And something very similar has happened with regard to the adult entertainment industry. In much the same way that guys and girls in bands, musicians, have a harder time monetizing their work, so do adult entertainers. No one's out there buying stuff. And if they are, well, chances are they're purchasing something, then ripping it and sharing it with their friends, or posting it to some file sharing website or something like that. And that makes it tougher for the writer of the song or the person that played on the song or sang the song to make money off of it. I mean, who was it? Peter Frampton. Peter Frampton went to Washington, D.C. and said to lawmakers there, hey, Spotify has played my song, Baby I Love Your Way, hundreds of millions of times, and I've received about $2,500 for that. That doesn't seem right. It's really hard to make a crust as a musician in this day and age, especially if you're just starting out. Well, much the same, it could be said for the world of adult entertainment. Stormy Daniels is a little old school. I don't know how old she is, but she's been around for a while. So she kind of remembers the good old days of pornography, or at least the way the porn business called it, when people would go buy video cassettes or DVDs or some sort of hard copy of some sort of media. And people were making money hand over fist with this stuff. People were getting paid. Performers were getting paid. And now, this is where the Stormy Daniels thing is something that I definitely understand. Because as a person that's been a writer, as a person that's been a musician, as a person who has turned their thoughts into some sort of art or media and used that media to make money with and use that money to pay a bill that allows lights to be turned on, I get why people are defensive of their content. And I understand why a pornographic performer would take that part of her complaint against Avenatti very seriously. She said, he has launched a new crowdfunding campaign using my face and my name without my permission and attributing words to me that I never wrote or said. It's interesting, right? The crux of the matter, besides the fact that she feels lousy about not being able to get accounting records for the fund that people have been donating to, and all of the above, is that she feels as though her name, her likeness, is being used. Something that has been plundered and pillaged over the years is being plundered and pillaged again by this guy who's kind of using her situation to give himself a leg up in the political world. Did you know who Michael Avenatti was before he started representing Stormy Daniels? No, you didn't. And then all of a sudden, the guy is perhaps the Democratic nominee for president in the year 2020. And everybody knew who he was. And it's off of the back of Stormy Daniels. So she's seeing this guy catapult himself to fame, success, riches, access to her followers that he's using to finance his own life, and not liking it. She said, "My goal is the same as it has always been, to stand up for myself and take back my voice after being bullied and intimidated by President Trump and his minions. One way or another, I'm going to continue in that fight, and I want everyone who has stood by me to know how profoundly grateful I am for their support." Avenatti said this: "I am and always have been Stormy's biggest champion." You see how he's, holding out hope that the relationship still lasts, because that's his springboard into larger things. He said, "I am and have always been Stormy's biggest champion. I have personally sacrificed an enormous amount of money, time, and energy toward assisting her because I believe in her. I have always been an open book with Stormy as to all aspects of her cases, and she knows that. The retention agreement Stormy signed back in February provided that she would pay me $100 and that any and all other monies raised by a legal fund would go toward my legal fees and costs. Instead, the vast majority of the money raised has gone toward her security expenses and similar other expenses. The most recent campaign was simply a refresh of the prior campaign designed to help defray some of Stormy's expenses." So he's going, "What do you mean? I don't have access to any of this money. No, this is Stormy Daniels' money, and I'm using it, even though she doesn't have a record of it, or she can't produce a record of it, to protect her. She's paid me $100. I'm making myself the sacrificial lamb of justice here by giving up on my massive legal fees to represent her for the common good." Yeah, that's one thing. But if he sued Trump against Daniels' wishes, that's a whole other thing. Why? There's serious repercussions and ramifications, and we'll get into that next. That's where things really get interesting.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
So Stormy Daniels, like a lot of other porn performers, has seen her bottom line be massively affected by the digital age. She's been doing it since the good old days when people bought DVDs, maybe even video cassettes. I don't know if she's been around that long, but the porn business was a very different animal when she first started out. And now she's all too accustomed to people making money off of her work, if you will. And, it's one thing to have your content appropriated. In the digital age, when someone steals your content or appropriates your content or takes credit for your content, it's tough because, well, you're really just trying to make a name off of what you created and therefore make a living off of what you created. As a guy who's written articles, as a guy who's been a blogger, as a guy who basically makes his living off of creating content, I totally understand why people get protective in this respect. Comedians. Oh, that's a big one. Comedians like our friend Steve Hofstetter. Steve Hofstetter Steve Hofstetter is always having to protect his stuff. He's got all these. Steve Hofstetter is a guy that's been on the show a bunch. I don't know if you remembered us talking to him in the past, but he's gone viral for his discussions with hecklers. And so he'll put them up on his YouTube page. They'll go viral. I mean, legitimately viral. And then someone will grab them, put them up on their Instagram. Someone will grab them, and they won't credit him. They won't. It's basically taking money out of his pocket. And so people that create media, people that create art, people that create porn have all in the digital age seen their ability to eat and pay rent and stuff like that massively impacted by digital theft, digital appropriation, people using their name and their likeness without paying for it. And so you understand why Stormy Daniels is up in arms. Like, there's all these grainy videos of her on adult entertainment tube websites, so I've heard, that were probably uploaded without permission, that she's not making any money off of. No one's making any money off of them except for the person that kind of ripped them from somewhere else and uploaded them to their channel. And I don't know exactly how the porn business works, but it happens with YouTube all the time. And I know there's similar business models. Bottom line is, she's a person who in the digital era will have seen her hard work and her name and her likeness that she built up on her own, no matter how she did it, used to put money in someone else's pocket, which is why I think she took particular exception to Michael Avenatti not giving her an in-depth accounting record of her defense fund, her crowdfunded legal defense money that was raised to defray his time and his costs. He said he only accepted $100 to become her lawyer, and then the rest of his services were supposed to be paid for by the Stormy Daniels legal fund. She apparently hasn't seen a penny of it. He says that it's all going to pay for her security costs, and that he's out a whole bunch of money because he's spending all this time representing her and not getting paid. Well, you know, he's managed to catapult himself into the zeitgeist, the public imagination. And up until a little while ago, it looked like he might be taking a run at being president. And you know what? In his mind, he still is. So he's making up the cash elsewhere. So it's a potato situation with regard to the money that has been raised by Stormy Daniels' followers and where it's being spent. But where it gets really interesting and really difficult and really sticky for Avenatti is that he could face really serious problems if he sued Donald Trump against Daniels' wishes. There's an article on this in, I think it's the Daily Beast, and it quotes a guy called Stephen Gillers, who is a law professor at NYU. It says, if he filed the case with her name when it was clear that she told him not to, then he could be sued for that. He could be sued for malpractice. If it's true, she has a malpractice case against him. I emphasize if it's true. And if true, she would be subject to discipline. He would be subject to discipline. I don't know if he could be disbarred. But at this stage in the game, anything's possible. Like I said, Avenatti says that he hasn't received a dime in attorney's fees from the crowdfunding effort. He said that he has spent well over 1,000 hours of attorney time on the case at a value of over $1.5 million. And he said, no, we don't count interviews or media as attorney time. Now, as her lawyer, Avenatti hasn't always knocked it out of the park for Stormy Daniels. And this could be a big part of the reason why she's saying, I didn't ask him to sue Donald Trump for defamation. That didn't go well. You might recall that back in April, there was this defamation lawsuit against Donald Trump, and it all stemmed from a tweet. Donald Trump tweeted out that Stormy Daniels was part of a total con job, quote unquote. Avenatti alleged that in doing so, Donald Trump hurt her reputation and decided to sue him for defamation, or, sued him for defamation on her behalf. And I think part of the reason why she might be going, that was nothing to do with me. I never asked him to do that, is because it didn't go well. And now she's on the hook for a bunch of money to Donald Trump. Yeah. Stormy Daniels, I don't know if you caught this interesting detail, owes Donald Trump $350,000. Yeah. When Avenatti sued Donald Trump for defamation following the tweet where Trump said she was part of a total con job, a judge dismissed the lawsuit and then ordered Stormy Daniels to pay the president's legal bills. Trump's lawyers asked for $350,000 in legal fees. Stormy Daniels is now attempting to lower that bill. And I think that might be a big part of the reason why she said, I never asked for this. This was not my idea. Avenatti did this without my say-so. Do I still have to pay? Also, Avenatti's been, I guess, raising money for my legal defense. And I have a $350,000 bill. I owe the president $350,000. And I can't really get an accounting of what's been going on with the people who have crowdfunded my legal defense from Avenatti. Avenatti says all the money's going to my personal security detail, but I don't have any evidence of that. What's going on? So it's a weird situation, right? I mean, Stormy Daniels, who was after perhaps some justice and definitely some notoriety. Well, Stormy Daniels found a lawyer who was only too eager to kind of make her a headline all over the world, but also wanted to make himself part of that headline. And then wanted to try and ride that into the political sunset. Aspirations of becoming the next president of the United States of America. And in the midst of all this, there's been some shoddy accounting by the sounds of things. We live in the year 2018. And if it sounds bizarre to you that this is our reality, that this is the headline all over the world, maybe this is why the world doesn't seem to take us as seriously as they once did. This is part of our political process. The porn star's lawyer who wants to be president because he thinks as the rough, tough, take no guff representative of porn stars, he is best suited to take on Donald Trump in the election in 2020. Do you think that from the outside looking in, people around the world might look at what's going on and go, that's okay, that's weird. This guy's in charge, and this guy's their best hope? Avenatti and Donald Trump, and in the mix, the tie that binds both of them. We can see her pole dance down the block and throw dollar bills at her while she's on stage. This is the American political process? Okay. All right. Yeah, America's weird. That's what the rest of the world is thinking when they read this. And this is international news. This is a headline all around the freaking globe. Avenatti is this, I don't know if his status is still intact as a hero of the resistance, but he has raised money and openly talked about a 2020 presidential bid. We'll wait and see. I would say there's no way in hell a man could be Stormy Daniels' lawyer, have a domestic abuse case leveled against him, be accused of absconding with a bunch of porn stars' legal defense money, and still secure the nomination for president and win. But it's 2018. And by the year 2020, all bets will be off. So why do we bring this up? Why do we talk about this? Why do we discuss what's going on with Stormy Daniels and Avenatti and all of the above? Well, it's not just to point out the myriad of things that make us in America and our political process a laughingstock on the global stage. No. There's something very important that we must unpack from this situation. If you're looking at this going, oh God, this is really weird, that's a very good thing. And I'll explain why next.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away. Radio.
AD on the radio.
So why do we bring all this up? Why do we rehash the continuing story of Trump, Stormy Daniels, and Michael Avenatti, who have occupied a good deal of our thought and speculation since we found out that Michael Cohen, who was Trump's personal attorney at the time, paid her $130,000 in hush money during the presidential campaign to keep stum about an affair that she had with Donald Trump long time before he ever really was considering becoming president. By the way, this is a claim that Donald Trump still denies. Cohen, his then lawyer, admitted in court in August that he made illegal payments during Trump's campaign at Trump's direction. He's on the hook for it. He pled guilty to 8 criminal counts, and he's waiting for sentencing. That much is true. But like I said, Avenatti's intentions are rather transparent in that they're not exclusively to do with justice for Stormy. He is the presidential hopeful, or at least was at one point, a hashtag resistant superstar, raising money, talking about a potential 2020 run, saying that he's the only candidate that could take on Donald Trump and win. The porn star's lawyer, who allegedly sued the porn star's former lover, the president, without the porn star's permission. The porn star's lawyer, a guy who was arrested under suspicion of domestic violence, which has derailed but not completely destroyed his chances of becoming the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party in 2020. The porn star's lawyer, who inserted himself into another public discussion by rushing to the defense of migrant children whom the Trump administration separated from their parents. Now, you might think that's incredibly noble, but I would question the guy's motives. Was it because he wanted to help the kids? Other longtime immigration lawyers involved with the process said that he was, and I quote, fantastically irresponsible. Read the article in The Observer. It's a little nutty. Oh, and by the way, this is a guy that owes millions to the IRS in unpaid taxes and judgments. Now, this is not a hit job on Michael Avenatti. I'm just saying, as we zoom out, does this all seem unbelievably weird to you? Does it seem strange that this is part of our political process in America? Does it seem normal that the rest of the world is laughing at us when this is going on? I hope so. I hope this seems unbelievably strange to you, because we basically spent the better part of this show talking about just how freaking weird life has gotten around here in the last couple of years. And you know what? There's going to be people that want to pin it all on Trump. I don't think you can do that. There's that old expression, people get the president they deserve, or something of that nature. Is Donald Trump several deviations away from the norm? Yeah. But Donald Trump, to me, whether you love him or loathe him, is a reflection of the times. Donald Trump, Michael Avenatti, Stormy Daniels, all of the above. The idea that a Michael Avenatti for president campaign could gather steam and be taken seriously because he was best suited to take on Donald Trump is an indication that perhaps we've lost the tenuous grasp we were maintaining on our humanity and our sanity. We've spent today's show talking about this for a reason, and that is just to let it all sink in. How ever-loving freaking bizarre life has become. I was talking to a coworker in the halls that works at one of the news stations, in the building, and he was like, yeah, I got to break that Trump, Avenatti, Daniels story. I was like, oh my gosh, so weird, right? So weird. He's like, yeah. Oh, yeah, you know what? I completely lost sight of the fact that it is weird. It is weird. I just kind of on this treadmill of reporting bizarre things, and I haven't really stopped to pay attention to the fact that it's weird. I guess that could be the lead part of the story. Hey, this is weird. You'll never believe it. Remember, there used to be these sections in the newspaper or on news programs that were the bizarre news stories. Strange, weird, wacky news. Porn star's lawyer running for president. Whoa, story at 11. But that's just our daily life now. And like I said, I'm not pinning this on Avenatti. I'm not pinning this on Donald Trump. I'm saying these things happening are a sign of the times and a reflection, as much as we might not like to admit it or unpack why, a reflection of us. So if this stuff does seem bizarre, uncomfortable, itchy, strange, unthinkable to you, good, you're getting back in touch with your humanity. And that's so important. Like I said, whether you love Donald Trump or loathe Donald Trump, he is indicative of the way we've become as a people. The bizarro land that we inhabit is of our own creation. And I know I'm saying, hey, this is all weird and we've got to make it less weird. I know that seems like a massive, insurmountable task. You look at the events of the last couple years, you go, oh my gosh, you got unbelievably strange situations like Michael Avenatti, a porn star's lawyer, being our great presidential hopeful despite his domestic abuse allegations, despite the fact that he's absconded with a whole bunch of money that belonged to a porn star's defense fund. You've got situations like our president tweeting to other world leaders that his nuke button works better than their nuke button. The list goes on and on and on. And when they are these massive, unwieldy, seemingly uncontrollable things that we have no influence over in our life, it's easy to feel helpless. It's easy to feel like we can't do anything. It's easy to feel as though we're living at the effect of other people's insanity. But you can make a difference. You can make a change. You can help us all get back to our own sense of humanity and sanity. How? Just by being the best version of yourself that you can be. If something seems strange or wrong to you, you can call it strange or wrong. You can recognize it as being strange or wrong. You can stop accepting it in your mind. It all starts in your mind. And then, in your own little way, you can affect the world around you tremendously. Just in your interactions with the folks around you. They might be your friends. They might be your family. They might be your coworkers. But you can start with being the person that you want to be. Being decent, being honest, being kind. And there's never going to be a better time of year to do that. Peace on earth, goodwill toward all. It's at the front of everyone's mind. And I want you to know that when you make that little effort to affect the world around you, it does more to stop the Trumps and Avenattis of this world than you could ever imagine.